Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Life Health Show. I'm so excited to have a great guest, Dr. Fred Bisci, and a great friend of mine. He's been eating a raw food diet for a very long time, and he's here visiting Hippocrates Health Institute. And I just wanted to have him on the show. He's been on before. I'm going to put links to the previous times he's been on. And Dr. Bisci, welcome to Hippocrates.
Thank you very much, Paul. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm very happy to be able to share some of my experience with you and your guests.
Well, you've been doing this a long time. So when you were growing up, you weren't really into health as a young boy, but then you've shared your story many times about how you made this transition to eating a healthy diet, and now you dedicated your life to helping others, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I believe that everybody has a purpose or a calling in life, and as I was discussing with my wife coming down in the car, at this point in my life, I'm 95 now, and over the years, I studied a lot. I went to different schools. It became a calling in my life to be able to help everybody, meet people where they're at. And I'm not just the people that want to go accept, information that's pretty obvious, but to gather enough information to meet the average person that doesn't have an understanding of how wonderful a raw food diet could be, because a lot of people just can't do that. Be able to take people from where they're at and able to help them to become healthier, not spiritually, physically, psychologically, and emotionally, because there's a lot more to this than diet. Of course, we all know that dietary lifestyle is extremely important, and a lot of people just don't realize that because we've been indoctrinated into a healthcare system. It's more about money than health. Sure. So at this point in my life, I do what I can to help people, and I never turn anybody away, even though I'm like semi-retired.
95 years young, doing this, and the thing is, what sets you apart from others is the traditional medical route, but you don't just look at that. You go beyond that, looking at the situation on each person on an individual level, and you get away from the modern known science of these things and these studies, and you get
it's abstract.
Yeah, but this is the amazing thing. After doing this for 95 years, you have an intuition that a medical doctor with the highest degree couldn't have, because they haven't applied many things to their own body, their own practice, and have the time behind it. But even more important, to inspire your intuition, you're led by the Holy Spirit before you do anything or tell anyone anything.
Well, I don't want to... Listen, I've developed, from my observance of life, and I see the suffering that people have gone through, and I see people doing the same things that's going to create that kind of suffering in their future. And my total dependence on faith, and faith is awesomely powerful. People don't realize that there is a creative intelligence, and we have the ability to tap into that creative intelligence by faith. And your subconscious mind is like the hard drive of a computer. The more you're exposed to this creative intelligence, the more that goes into your memory bank or your hard drive, and the everyday decisions that you're going to make are going to get better and better because you have that sophisticated information in your hard drive. I don't know if I'm making it clear. Does that understand?
It makes perfect sense. Okay. Basically, there's a saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And basically, we're trained our whole lifestyle and a whole lifetime to listen to the doctors, listen to what they say, do what they say. But when somebody comes to you and they're sick and you know a different way or better way through your intuition, through the Holy Spirit, your challenge isn't knowing what to do. Your challenge is getting people to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To me, I always, my wife is my confidant also. I could talk to her. A lot of people I can't talk to, open myself up to, because it's not always the best idea. Because, with my experience in my studying, and I listen, I'm not dogmatic. I'm certainly not one of these people that are into health that are going to demonize doctors. I don't do that. When it comes to emergency medicine, trauma, and surgery, you need a doctor. You can't eat an apple or take a shot of juice of some type. So there are times we need the help of a doctor. Now, but doctors, with all due respect, are limited in certain ways. They don't even realize that they've been indoctrinated also. They don't know that much about lifestyle change. Plus, to fully understand the amazing qualities the human body has to heal is beyond belief. It sounds like quackery. How you initiate that ability it's not through nutrition. See, a lot of people, when they hear about going to a nutritionist, they visualize themselves being taking special supplements or superfoods. They have some value, but that's not the answer. The answer is in God's remedial capability, designed into the human body. We are designed to heal and live a very, very long time. Unfortunately, we're living in a fallen environment. What I mean by a fallen environment, we're being bathed in an environment of chemicals, not only from Wi-Fi and all these cell towers and the chemistry that's affecting our food with pesticides and all kinds of stuff. And of course, there are a lot of things that we're getting now. People are still open to, they're not fully aware of the damage that was done recently with the mandates that took place.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know if I can even say it.
No,
I see people all the time that are suffering from, this stuff. And they're not being told how to get rid of those proteins, So, lifestyle, your body is awesome. It has the ability to do unbelievable things that might even sound like quackery, but it's based on you giving it the freedom to do that. You got to leave out a lot of the foods that become your favorite foods. A lot of people are dying from eating their favorite foods. They're willing to just say, I'll eat more fruits and vegetables, but I'm not going to give up this, this, and this. Well, this, and this is what's doing it to them. Once you give up this, and this, and then you eat the diet compatible optimally with the biological design, you're going to have a miracle.
Exactly.
You're not going to lose your mind, Unfortunately, so many people are suffering from cognitive dysfunction, Alzheimer's, all these different types of things. It's amazing. But thank God more and more people that are scientists are starting to focus on the true science. Like you had your friend on the other day,
Sure.
Dr. Lodi. I was listening to him. I said, thank God, here's a guy that's coming back. He's coming out of that indoctrination. He's got he's a medical doctor, he's a psychologist. Now he's into focusing on the real science of how the body actually can heal from things that just seem like it's quackery. It's not quackery. The body is capable of a miraculous thing.
Well, one of the things you're known, a quote to say is, health doesn't begin until you add to your diet. It's what you eliminate. Eliminate the things that are creating the issue, and then the body will heal itself.
So that's so true. I'm glad you said that. It took me years to realize that, the body was such a wonderful biological organism, could turn things around. And the hardest part about turning these things around is not physical, it's psychological. Because the hypothalamus gland at the floor of your brain, it controls your sex drive, your hunger drive, and all addictions work through the hunger drive. So the hunger drive is one of the most powerful drives in the human psychology, physiology. But the thing is, when you start eating these foods that are, loaded with sugar, salt, and all these type of things, and fats, and all these things, when they become delicious, extremely delicious. And what happens, they become part of the addictive process. It's almost like a drug. It's worse than a drug.
It's like cocaine or something.
Yeah.
It's like a legal drug.
You don't have to do cocaine every day, but you're going out and eat every day.
Exactly.
And you can't, nobody's really breaking down the psychology to this to make them understand what's happening, because a lot of people, I see people, it breaks my heart sometimes to see people, you're looking at them and they're telling you all the medication they're on and what their problem is, and I'm saying to myself, this person could get better. But when if you would, I don't say nothing because I know people are not going to get it unless you give them, good explanations and explain the science. But the thing is, it's very, very, it's sad to see all the people are suffering from chronic disease.
It certainly is.
And a lot of, and especially in my age, forget about it.
They don't make it to your age.
All right, okay.
If they do, they just barely can get out of bed.
But to see people that, 70 and 80, they're becoming feeble. They're losing their cognitive function. They're becoming dependent on other people. It's sad. There was a health food store I used to go to on Staten Island before I moved, and I had an older brother who was, I don't know, he'd be 130 or something like that. Unbelievable. But this guy looked at him. I see this guy come walking by, and he looked so much like my brother. And I used to see him, and he didn't know what he was doing, and you could see that he was, urinating in his pants. He didn't realize it. And I said, to think that maybe this man didn't have to be that way. If he understood, and you could see he had a pot belly and everything, if he understood that there are natural laws that we have to live by, they have nothing to do with salvation, zero, but they have everything to do with your state of health. And then being a church-going man and a God-believing man, I go to church, I see people in churches that they're praying over their food, but they're eating the same bad food and they're getting the same diseases.
Exactly.
I say, it's sad. And then if you try to tell them in the church, they think it's blasphemous. Well, you're not believing the Bible. I know the Bible.
Exactly. What I find is the world, or we could say the enemy, and everything works on stimulation and exhaustion. That's it. You got stimulants in the food and not getting that healing power of the sleep and rest we need. The body's just exhausted, and people stay stimulated and thinking they feel good, but they don't. Sleeping is like the nature's
stimulation
healing.
is exhaustion.
Exactly. It leads right to
You're going to be exhausted. For every amount of stimulation in your life, there's all different kinds of stimulation that might be good for you, like exercising and breathing deep, when you increase your breathing.
But the stimulation from those processed foods, the stimulation from the drugs and chemicals, the legal drug of caffeine.
What you're doing is that energy is coming from your adrenal glands. Food doesn't give you energy. It just takes away energy. Energy is created by the Krebs cycle between use of oxygen and glucose. The burning fat is not giving you the same type of energy. Everybody's into what's going on today, but it's not the same thing. But you could do it, but you're not going to have that long life. We definitely have the knowledge to live beyond 100, definitely in good shape. But you're not going to do it the way some of these people are trying to convince people to do it. You'll have immediate stimulation and gratification. The nitrogenous byproducts, they're in animal protein. They're a drug. They're very stimulating. And you got to look at the biological design of the human body. What we were really designed to do. All you got to look at our physiology and the biological design. It should tell you what the optimal food is. Not what you could be stimulated on and be, for 10, 15 years. Living 10 to 15 years on a diet is it's not so impressive.
Yeah, I mean, this will explain, I went on a long water fast.
Yeah, I know.
At the last day of the fast, I'm talking like a whole month with no food. I had more energy than I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, I know.
And you've done a lot of fasting, and everything you're saying explains why.
I ran 10 miles on a water fast.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah.
People say that's, why? Because you burn, even a skinny guy like me, I got reserves in fat under where the serratus magnus are. How could somebody, now if the average person starts drinking water, and they don't know what they're doing, why they feel so poorly, so badly, and they feel like they're going to collapse and weak. But anybody who did a long water fast, how did Barbara Moore run across country? You know who Dr. Barbara Moore was? Yeah. And Dick Gregory, I think he drank juices.
He walked all over the world.
He walked all over the world, the guy.
Yeah.
So, how could you not be having food intake and have this tremendous energy and clarity of mind? Did I do something wrong?
No. No.
Tremendous clarity of mind. Having mental clarity, he said, if you do the right thing, you're going to have amazing mental clarity. The amazing thing, and I give all the glory to God, is that my wife could share with you some of the things that I've had happen to me, that I survived. Not only did I survive, I come out of them, not to boast. I'm not boasting. I'm nobody special, but I come out of it like unbelievable. I've had 4 brain concussions. I was exposed to mold. It ate a hole right through I had a hole right through my skull, like a bullet hole. They were going to cut out my whole forehead and put a plate in. Through the grace of God, they wheeled me into the operating room, and my daughter, because I had such a bad exposure to mold, and the healthier you are, the more entrenched the secondary disease. You won't get the secondary disease because you're super healthy, but then it gets entrenched in your system. My daughter told the doctor that I had pneumonia about a month before that from the mold. We had to move out of our house. They wanted to rip the house down. I didn't have the money to do.
So you were actually going to do the surgery, and your daughter?
Yeah, because I was in a life-threatening situation. So then I didn't even realize that my head was starting to pop out. My wife told me, Freddie, your head is starting to pop out. So I look like a unicorn. So I went to see a doctor friend of mine who's a great guy. He was a professor at NYU, and he got very nervous. He thought I had cancer. He said, Freddie, don't get nervous. Everything's going to be okay. I'm going to recommend. I told him, don't worry, I'm a big boy now. I'm not going to get nervous, So what happened, he stuck an instrument in there, and boom, it opened up. I could put my finger right into it.
He created the hole?
No, the hole was there. It was just popping out. It was like an infection. So
he put an instrument in there.
Yeah, and he thought I had cancer. Nobody could be walking around like that.
Yeah.
So he sent me to see this Asian doctor, who was another great guy. He said, don't worry, you're going to be okay. And he thought I had cancer because he was a cancer specialist. He says, well, you don't have cancer. All right. He said, but we can't leave your head like that. You got a hole in your head now. It looks like a bullet hole. It's a big hole. It's this big.
What were you thinking when they told you might have cancer? What were you thinking at that point?
Well, I thought it would be very, very unusual, but I knew that I had been living in a mold environment. Thank God my family weren't exposed to it. I was very grateful for that. And I figured anything could happen. And I wasn't totally familiar with the dangers of black mold at the time. I knew it could be dangerous. It ain't like the mold in your bathroom. It was the whole environment. When they ripped out the sheetrock and took out the walls, the mold was stacked up there. So it was a miracle I did survive that. So what happened is that when they wheeled me into the operating room, the anesthesiologist, a woman, said, I'm not putting this man under anesthesia. He just had pneumonia. Then his age, from 70 on up, there's an incremental risk of being under general anesthesia. So what happens, they didn't operate on me. So when I come out, which was another intervention from you know who, and what happened is that I said to myself, you know what? I have this knowledge and I got this faith. I'm not going to get this. And he said, don't worry, we'll wait a couple of months, we'll get down. Don't get nervous. I don't get nervous. Yeah. I'm not that type of guy. So what happened, he kept calling me up. You all right? I'm all right. I'm okay. So what I did a fast, right? I stayed on my diet. You know what I mean? I got away we moved out, that was the key. We went to a hotel. We were in a hotel for about a week. They come in, cost me
cleaned up your house.
$18,000 to clean up. They ripped out everything in the bottom of it. And we went back. And they didn't get everything the first time, and I knew it. And we have a mutual friend that came into that. He knew right away there was something wrong. So then I just did that, and I can't get my finger in. So he said the bone would not close up, the hole. So it still looks like I got shot.
Well, that brings in a very important point. Because you eat the best diet a person can eat. But you always say, another thing you often say is there's no panaceas here.
No.
And there's so much more that affects our health other than just our diet. So if something would have happened to you, it's explainable to you and me from something like the mold or some other, maybe it's a cell phone tower, maybe it's
they're
something
all
in the air.
dangerous things.
So all these different things, it's not only diet alone. So somebody could be eating a healthy diet and still suffer from these things. It's not a panacea.
If you're living where these cell phone towers are, I'm telling you, they are dangerous. I had a guy come to me, the guy died. That's what he did. He went up on the roof of these places where the cell phone towers, and he maintained them. He had a very serious type of blood cancer. And I told him, I said, Tony, you can't keep going up there. That's what this is from. I said, what I'm doing, changing your diet, it's not going to help you if you keep going up, and you're standing right next to these things.
Unbelievable.
He said, Freddie, I got 3 kids, and he was a guy about 40. And he didn't quit his job, and guess what? He died.
And even then, so then that happens, and you overcome that. And how old were you when that happened?
What?
The mold poisoning and the possible surgery. How old were you?
I was in my 80s.
Okay, so now you get past that, and you would think, okay, I made it past this big thing in my life, and then you're in your 90s,
right,
and something even more painful. Because when you have the mold poisoning, something's wrong, but you don't always know it. It's not something, it might affect your breathing.
You'll get to know it. You'll start having pneumonia. You
get sick, but you got something more painful that you knew immediately later on that you just overcome. Right. In your 90s, you want to discuss that and how you dealt with it from a faithful standpoint, how you dealt with it.
Well, I have to go back to the beginning. I was a pilot on the boats, right? I was
and when people hear pilot, he wasn't flying planes. A pilot means he was driving the boat.
Driving the boat. I was a pilot on the boat. So what happened is that one of the engineers, it was around Christmas and everybody was celebrating, and I don't drink, and this guy was drinking, and one of the guys suggested, Freddie, why don't you drive him home, because he had a drinking problem. And this was many years ago. So I said...
Many years ago? You were in your, 30s or 40s at this point?
No, I was probably in my 50s.
50s, okay.
And I used to run to work with a knapsack. I was really into this stuff. And so what happened, we go down to the car, and it was in Manhattan. The boat dropped in Manhattan. And, it was snowing out. Conditions were very bad. I get down, I asked him to give me the keys. He says, no, I'm not going to give you the keys. I'm going to drive home. I made a mistake. I didn't want to leave the guy. That was a mistake. We had a very bad accident. The car that hit us actually saved our life. We were going to go off the BQE, and the woman was in the car, died, punched a hole in her head and everything. And I got very hurt. Like, if you look at me without a shirt, I got like half the shoulder. The head of the humerus bone was crushed, broke my collarbone, had a lot of things, broke the ribs on this side. I got hurt pretty bad, And
as far as as long as I've known you, you always said you can't move your hand over.
No, I can't move my arm.
So you got this accident.
So what happened, they took me to the hospital, and, they wanted to operate on my shoulder. And, I thought I could heal myself on my own. I probably should have got the operation. Of course, I used to work out with the weights, and I used to spar and everything. I couldn't do that no more, so that's when I got into the long-distance running.
So you refused the surgery at the time?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Right, which probably was a mistake.
Okay.
So then, because of the injury to my right side, I had severe injuries to my right side over the years with all the running I did, because I'm always the type of person, because, the way... I won't go into all that, but I've always been the type of person that reached for the outer limits, maybe extreme. Even with fasting, I did that unbelievable long fasting. And what happened, my body started to compensate, and my body started to twist my spine. So I have scoliosis. So with that, I started to develop some pinched nerves and things like that. So then what happened is I started to have a lot of severe pain, and I went to a number of different people to try to help me. One guy.
How soon after that car accident did you get this pain?
Years.
So for years you were okay?
Yeah, I was running. I ran marathons and ultra marathons. I was good, But my body was compensating all the time. If you look at me, if I stand up and you look at me, it looks like I got a very small shoulder. I do. It's atrophy. It looks like I got a half a shoulder.
Now, if you would have got to surgery,
I probably wouldn't have had it. I probably would have been okay.
Okay, so but you didn't know at the time, so you get this, your body's making up for it. Now, later on in life, the pain starts developing in your back and your nerves.
Yeah, well, I had extreme pain. My wife could tell you what happened with me. But I'm a strong-minded guy with a lot of faith, so I was able to hang in there. I went to see a guy who tried to help me. I don't want to put anything down. And the guy said I can't apply enough pressure because of your age. So I went to see a younger fellow who said I could apply more pressure. It was like a mechanical thing, and he broke my back. The L4 cracked. So then the pain was...
So was that like a chiropractor?
I don't want to knock anybody.
No, we're not saying names here, but you went to somebody to help you with the pain in your back.
He was very good. He just took a chance and he told me what the chance was.
But you were going there for the pain in your back.
Well, I was going there to open up my vertebrae, because I had scoliosis, and to kind of open it up so there'll be less herniation on the disc. So what happened? Then I was very fortunate I had to get surgery.
Well, did you know right away, like?
Yeah, no, I felt it and I heard it.
Okay.
I heard pop, and that was it. So, but it was my fault. He told me it was risky. He asked me if I was willing to take the chance, and I said yes, because I wanted to avoid the surgery. So then, went to hospital for special surgery, saw Dr. Alexander Hughes. As far as I'm concerned, the guy's a genius. He said if I didn't do something about it, I could end up in a wheelchair. And I don't want to end up in a wheelchair, you know what I mean?
Now, you're in your 90s now when this is going on, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
All right, so we told you that, so then
what happened is that, and then my wife was concerned about me going under anesthesia because she understands about that. We've often discussed that. And she spoke to him, and he said that I'm going to give you a husband extensive physicals. I went up to 2 days for physical. And then he told my wife, we're not worried about your husband's age. We know how, but he has the physiology of a 50-year-old man, so he's going to handle it very well. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So he did a fabulous job on me. It's fabulous. I mean, the other day I ran, I'm back to running again. Wow. I got to be careful. I'm an extreme, I'm the type of guy I push too hard.
Well, there's a lot of people now, they look at a real age, but then they look at their biological age.
Yeah, like right. Chronological and biological age are two different things.
Yeah. And some people that are sick, they might be biologically much more advanced in their age than their real age, and vice versa. If somebody's really healthy,
absolutely,
they'll be much younger in their biological age.
No, absolutely, you're 100% right. You could be 40 years old and biologically be 70. Or you could be 70 and have the biological age of a guy of 40 years old. That's absolutely.
Now there's actually, from what I've seen, there's blood tests.
Oh, there's tests
to tell you what your biological age is.
Paul, but you can determine what your biological age is by your lifestyle.
Yeah.
A guy like you, if you do the right thing, you're doing the right thing. You're on one of the best diets I ever saw. You're biologically, you're gonna, there's no reason. Unless you do something different, or you get run over by a truck or something, you're going to break 100.
Well, this is the thing for everyone to understand, and Dr. Bisci will explain this, is if you're suffering from the same illnesses and diseases as everyone in the world that's eating a terrible diet, something's not right, because you shouldn't be dealing with that stuff. And maybe it's your fault through your diet, or maybe it's your fault through something else. Maybe it's coming through... like I said, there's radiation, there's mold, there's other things that you don't know about. But regardless, it does say in the Bible, my people destroyed for lack of knowledge. So
absolutely.
We want to get the knowledge and wisdom, and I recommend Dr. Fred Bisci's book for that knowledge and wisdom. It's absolutely amazing.
It's basic, though. It's a basic thing. It's in everyday language, because I want to... Listen, here's the way I look at this. There's a lot of people out there to give... people advice about raw food, which is not very complicated at all. But I basically want to meet the average person. I want to be able to reach the average person that has no knowledge of this, that's basically lost, to be able to take them or have other people, teach other people to take those people that nobody wants to bother with because there's not a lot of money in it. A lot of people don't have money. They shouldn't be ignored. You know what I mean? That's the way I look at it anyway.
Absolutely. And so your book, even though it's basic, it's what's going to get people into just getting back to health.
Oh, absolutely.
And tell them the name of your book.
Your Healthy Journey, or the Healthy Journey workbook, or the book I wrote with Brian and Victoria Scovincis and Gable Cousins, the ex-elders. Plus, hopefully I'm going to write another book that I'm going to get really deeper into this. I'm just going to get somebody to help me write a book.
And you can get your book on Amazon. I'm going to put the link below in the description to get that book, Your Healthy Journey, on Amazon. It's absolutely amazing. And there's other interviews I've done with Dr. Bisci over the years, and hopefully many more years to come with more interviews and more information.
I hope so.
And what you're doing is you're helping people. And,
well, that's what I want to do. That's my purpose.
You're doing it.
A lot of people think I'm a foolish businessman. I'm not a businessman. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's not my intention. I'm blessed. Listen, I never had a lot of money, but nobody lives better than me. I'm just blessed. God has always provided everything I needed, you know what I mean? I got a great family. I got a good wife. I got great grandchildren. I got 2 wonderful daughters. Life is full of trials and tribulations. Through the grace of God, through faith, and being bold, and be able to be courageous, to have courage in this fallen environment that beyond human understanding, that comes from through the guidance and wisdom of the Holy Spirit. Life is good.
I got to tell everybody, I met Dr. Bisci when I was writing my book. This was in the year 1999 or 2000. I was writing a book and I was interviewing people. So we're talking almost 25 years here. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, from my standpoint, there's probably no human being I spoke to more than him, because I'm always in touch with him over the years. But he's helped me so much and continues to do so. And he's never asked me for 1 penny in all those years. In all those years. That just gives you an example of the type of person he is. And he does that for many people.
Oh, yeah. No,
but 25 years of personal coaching and counseling, and just with life and everything, not 1 penny has he asked me for.
No.
And that just explains the type of person you are. And I know the stories of the people you've helped. The information is often overlooked because not only is he not a businessman, he's 95 years old. People that are 95 years old don't know how to market on the internet like people that are 15 years old. So he's not well known for that reason, because he's not an internet marketer. He's not a businessman. But I could tell you the information he shares works. It's what I apply to my diet and my lifestyle. And it's been proven for years because he promotes what's found in the world's greatest book, the Bible. So how can you go wrong with that?
Well, the bottom line is does it work? I mean, can people get better from incurable disease? Yes, they can. They definitely can.
Your great saying, there's no incurable disease, there's only incurable people.
Right.
And they're thinking. Yeah.
Well, listen, we're lucky that we could... God could use us to help people in many, many different ways. And sometimes people are just looking for somebody to listen to. A lot of people call me up. They really don't have that much to do with nutrition. They're just having a lot of trouble, and they just need somebody to listen to them and say, don't worry, things are going to get better. Trust God, or, have a little faith, or to say some basic things. And, of course, I only had a little office. It's nothing fancy. A lot of people would come to see me all over the world. They thought I had a big fancy office. It was a little shoebox there. And, I actually had many a person sit in that chair crying, and they were scared, And I had to try to comfort them, and tell them there was hope,
I mean, unless you're going to a psychiatrist and paying them per minute for that type of counseling, you go to the average medical doctor, they rush you in and out of that office so fast. You see them for 1 second. You see the nurse and the secretary more than you see the doctor. You see them for 1 second. They read a chart. There's no conversation. What you're doing is part of the healing and the medicine and everything. It's listening to people. It's connecting with people. And
you'll learn by listening to people. You're going to find out a lot more about them, and you have a better chance of helping them.
So in closing here, Dr. Bisci, of course, I want to encourage everybody to get his book. I'll put the link below. What message would you like to share? 95 years old. Maybe give us this. What are your top 3 tips when it comes to health? And then give us a closing message. What are your top 3 tips that people can do when it comes to health?
Well, I want to make sure that people realize the importance of having a personal relationship with God and who Christ really is. That's important. But the top 3 tips I would say is to eat a clean diet, whatever the best level you can, so long that it's clean. Drink sufficient water, and exercise and controlling your breath. Understanding what breath can do for you.
So you said clean diet,
Right.
clean water,
Right.
and sufficient water, and controlling your breath.
And exercise.
Exercise and controlling your breath.
Right.
Wow. And
I find that controlling my breath, when I was running marathons and learning how to breathe when I was running correctly, made a tremendous difference. And of course, I want to touch on when people said, oh no, don't eat too much fruit. And, I wasn't getting enough calories. And then I heard Dr. David Castilli say that after you exercise generally for 45 minutes after, you don't secrete insulin. So all I did was ate a couple extra pieces of fruit, and I was able to run a fast marathon. That's what the difference was. It was ridiculous.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
So what in your closing, what would you tell people here?
Well, you got to, first and foremost, focus on the good things in your life and realize that you're blessed, and realize that don't despair. If you haven't changed your dietary lifestyle, leave out all the processed food. That's where the miracles start. And if somebody tells you you have something that's incurable, be very, very careful before you accept that completely, because nothing is final till it's really all over. So, and contact the right people that have experience, and be very careful about what's taking place in the social media. There's a lot of people that sound like what they're saying is correct when it's not. It's abstract.
All right, there you have it. Wisdom speaks, and this is the man of wisdom, 95 years young. I've been on a raw food diet and continually thriving, amazing amount of energy. I got to share one of my favorite stories. When I wrote my first book, which I interviewed Dr. Bisci in there, I was living in a 4-story walk-up, and it was 2 flights of stairs for each story, so we had eight stories. And they pull up 5,000 books. They pull up to the front of my house with these boxes. I think they were 35 pounds each. And you were in your 70s back then, and these 2 big guys come out of the truck, and they each took 1 box up there, and this was looking like 50 boxes or something. They each brought 1 box up, and they were profusely sweating, and they're like, we can't do this. And they left me sitting in front of my building with 5,000 books, and I called Dr. Bisci up, and he came over, and me and him did all those books, walking up and down the steps, got them into my apartment, and it's just a great example of this how this works. Yeah. So,
they were big husky guys, but they weren't, this quality of muscle is very, very important. You could be thin and be extremely strong. People don't realize you could look, I know I look feeble, but I'm not feeble. I'm surprisingly strong,
Yeah. So. Well, amazing, everybody. Thank you for watching. Put your comments and questions below. Thank you again for being here and for everything you're doing.
God bless you.
God bless you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Good for your health. This is the Raw Life Health Show.